Have you ever considered leaving Australia, leaving a Commonwealth country, escaping to South America? Well, I'm sitting down today with Brock Way. He's an Australian who has done exactly that. He's living now in Asuncion, Paraguay. He's been there for quite a while at this point, and we're going to learn more about his story and help make things relatable for the audience, anyone who's considering doing the same. Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Mr. Brock Way, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you're in Asuncion at the moment?
Yeah, man. So been here 4 months this year, but I was here last year as well for 6 months.
Cool. And you're still at that same co-living? You don't have to say the name, but you still there?
Yeah, I won't say the name. It's pretty good, but yeah, still here. Meeting a lot of other tourists and whatnot, so it's been good.
Nice. Not too third world. The Wi-Fi is good?
Nah, man. No issues, honestly, here. It's a great life.
Well, we'll definitely crack into that. I was trying to think how many Australians I've had on the podcast. So I've had Geologo Trader. I've had, what's his name? Eddie Kwan. And I think there's one or two more, but I kind of forget. So, but you're top five in my book.
Yeah, right. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Honestly, I haven't met too many Aussies in LATAM. We're pretty far away, so it's good to see them popping up.
For sure. So how do we want to kick things off? I was thinking, well, you've been in Asuncion for a while now, so you're pretty settled in. You know, a lot of guys, they, maybe apply for residency, get out of there, or, maybe just do like a couple months and then flee to Brazil or something like that. But you've stuck it out.
Yeah, man. So originally me and my brother just came here to get the residency and then bounce. But literally after a week, I realized straight away that I was gonna base up here. I've actually made a post about this. I'm always talking good things about Asuncion, and people on Twitter are telling me that, I'm selling something and I'm talking shit just to, sell whatever it is that I've got. The truth is that I'm not selling anything, and I genuinely just love living here. So decided to base up around 4 to 6 months per year. Mainly just because of how simple life is. It's a very convenient life. Can focus on my routine and my business, save a bunch of money, obviously invest more. Very good life, good people, good energy. And it's kind of all I want really for, my main base.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, what are you kind of thinking for those other 6 to 8 months?
So I love Mexico, man. Mexico is probably my favorite so far. So definitely be adding that in the mix. Going home back to Australia maybe once every 2 years will probably be, in the mix as well, just to
That's
see
not very
family.
frequent.
No, bro, fuck that. It's too far away, and just not worth it in general. But I like Spain, I like Mexico, I like Argentina, and there's still some places that I want to check out as well. But kind of basing, my 6 months here, and then whatever feels right at the time, I'll go there. I've got a trip booked to Buenos Aires again, end of December, with one of my best mates who's just come out here recently. So that should be good as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's walk through the whole, Asuncion's actually not that bad. It's actually pretty good. You can have a good setup because for people that haven't been, it definitely probably sounds like a third world shithole, right? Paraguay, what's that? I got to look it up on the map. You know what I mean? But when you get down there, you're like, oh, this actually kind of has, like, it checks a lot of the boxes, right?
Yeah, man, 100%. I was on the same page as well before I came. It depends on your personality and what you enjoy and whatnot. If you're someone that, prefers the adventure and the craziness and the parties and whatnot, maybe not so much for you. But, if you want to hang around like-minded guys, you don't mind hotter climate, you just want to focus on work, and save money, this is a perfect spot to be. The dating's decent as well. And in all honesty, in terms of gyms and supermarkets and things like that, Asuncion wins for the majority of these types of things when it comes to Latin America. had, pretty bad experiences with going to certain gyms and certain supermarkets. Here, very convenient. Whatever you want to get delivered, you can get delivered. It's super cheap. The steak's unreal. We're cooking asados all the time. Just the vibe in general, man. It's really good life, honestly.
Hmm. And yeah, we probably have to put the disclaimer that a lot of this is Asuncion and maybe like in the bigger cities. But overall, like, it's much more first world than, say, a Guatemala or something like that, right? Like, you're not going to get those same high end gyms and grocery stores and a lot of these things in some other LATAM countries. Like, Asuncion's actually like very, can be very high end.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll note is I don't leave this 5 kilometer radius that I'm in, like I don't leave that bubble that I'm in. So, just one thing to note, obviously, outside of that, it's not too pretty. But I have everything I need inside this little circle, and I'm happy to just chill here, and focus on what I need to do during that time.
Hmm. And could you give people some like uh, specific examples about the convenience? Or obviously, I know like the grocery stores are like insanely impressive. Like the Biggie is unreal. But maybe you could kind of walk people through some examples.
Yeah, sure, man. So, I mean, as I said before, whatever you want to get delivered, you can get delivered. If you live close to the shopping mall, I usually recommend that you stay close to Shopping Del Sol. That has everything you need. So, you got Deli Market, which is a supermarket. You've got all the bars. You've got all the restaurants. Gyms, clothing stores. Like, I can just walk 100 meters and I'm there. I've got cleaners that wash my dishes, that wash my clothes, clean my room once a week. Um, just everything about my life is so simple and so convenient. So, when I do just want to jump into deep work and chill out, like I'm able to just fully 100% focus on, what I want to focus on without having to worry about bullshit, doing these stupid, activities like going and doing the shopping or having to wash my clothes, having to wash the dishes. Like I don't have to do that here, which is just obviously very, very convenient.
Hmm. And it's all at a pretty accessible price point.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, right? It's not possible when it's super expensive. The reason why it's possible these types of things is because it doesn't cost too much to be able to outsource those tasks.
Hmm. Tell people about Biggie. What is Biggie?
So Biggie's like your small little deli, your small little supermarket, convenience store that you have. In Mexico, you got Oxos, right? The Circle K's, the 7-Elevens in Thailand. It's like the equivalent of that, but it's called Biggie. A lot of them are 24/7, and just the options you have there, it's almost like your standard supermarket in Argentina or something. Like it just has so many options. You got your veggies, you got all your meat selection, and everything else that you want, alcohol. Um, so in terms of everywhere I've been in the world, that convenience store is the best I've been to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, Oxo truly sucks by comparison.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
Oxo sucks, honestly. Convenience stores in Mexico kind of suck. I know it's like part of the culture, but they kind of suck.
Yeah.
But the Biggie, bro, dude, like artisanal ice cream, like 15 different types of ice cream, like really good stuff, like gelato and everything,
Yeah, man.
acai.
You don't even need
Uh,
to go to the supermarket. You can just go to there.
yeah, and it's 24/7, and they're
hmm
everywhere. And they have a lot of them have drive through too, which is crazy.
I I get it delivered all the time, bro. So like my waters or whatever I want, honestly, I'll just get download the Biggie app and
Ooh,
they bring the POS machine, the card machine, and you just pay on card.
wow.
Yeah.
Biggie app.
However, with Pedido Jar, they don't, for some weird reason, they don't accept international banks. So you have to set up, obviously pay on cash or either set up a local bank here to be able to make those payments
Hmm.
through card, which
Okay.
is
So
annoying.
Biggie, I
But
was
yeah,
gonna ask how you do the Biggie. So it's Biggie has their own app,
they have their own app and they just bring
and then
like the card FBOS
they
machine.
bring the bus,
The
the
POS,
the
it's called,
the
yes.
the credit card reader.
Hmm.
Okay. And the wine selection is unreal. All these wines from Argentina. You don't really
Yeah,
drink, but
I,
whatever.
I
But
don't I don't know anything about wine, but fuck, man, there's heaps. I've seen
I
that.
can tell you the wine selection sucks in Mexico by comparison. And Mexico does it is a wine producing country, but they just don't have a lot of that in most grocery stores.
Yeah.
Um, but the wine selection at a convenience store in Paraguay is like absolutely insane. I'm talking about like 100 plus different bottles easily,
Wow,
like
man.
at every convenience store in Paraguay. It's nuts. Not just the biggie, but some of the other ones too. The green one, I forget what it's called. Um, anyway, what else they got? They got I like the alfajores, the little like chocolates. You probably don't even eat that.
No,
Uh,
bro.
Dude, they have sick alfajor selection at the biggie. Obviously, they have a huge mate selection and all the different remedios and hierbas that you can put in the yerba mate. Huge beer selection, like crazy, like German style beers and artisanal beers. In Mexico, you can basically only get lager. Like at the OXXO, they only have lager. It's like fucking 10 types of lager. It's like Tecate lager and Modelo lager
Yeah.
and Victoria lager. And then I go to Paraguay and I'm like, finally, I can get like an IPA or a porter or something like that.
So when you
Um,
coming back, mate?
eh, soon. I mean, I got shit to do down there for sure.
Yeah, man.
What else about I mean, the fruit selection's really good in the biggie. You can get avocados and like all the stuff you need. And the meat selection is insane. You can get all the cuts at the convenience store. They got all the cuts at like really good
Literally, and
prices.
it's fucking insanely cheap as well.
Kanya at the convenience store.
Hmm.
What
Oh,
else?
to
I
be
mean, then
fair,
just like all the other stuff, like whatever razor blades and lotions and all the type of stuff people need. So it's unreal. It's unreal, and it kind of just speaks to the convenience or sophistication of Paraguay because these groceries. Because if that's the convenience store, obviously the grocery store has to be even better to be competitive, right?
exactly.
So it just speaks to the competitiveness of the I don't know the grocery industry in Paraguay and how much better the grocery stores are there than say in Brazil or Argentina or pretty
Man,
much anywhere. It's better than Panama.
Argentina was a complete letdown for all that stuff. An absolute pain in the ass, man, with the supermarkets and the gyms. Did not have a good experience there at all. Um, Good place, don't get me wrong, but yeah, that the juxtaposition between those two is just insane.
It's kind of ironic, no?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Because Paraguay is the inland country, and maybe seems like shittier, has a worse brand name, I guess, internationally. But everything's like done way better. Like just
Yeah,
the business executives that run these businesses are just like executing at a higher level.
yeah, and then also you got the whole thing with buying products there or buying clothes, electronics. So it's just, man, it's super cheap here, whereas in Argentina it's obviously super expensive to get. Right? Like I tried getting a an air fryer in Argentina, and like the price was just ridiculous.
And did you buy one in Paraguay?
No, but I've seen them here. That like it's just like it's not anywhere near as expensive as Argentina.
Hmm. Cool. Is your brother still down there with you?
Yeah, man. So I'd say like 70% of the time, me and my brother are together. He originally got residency in Panama, so we spent 6 months there before Paraguay. Um, Honestly, Panama is probably my least favorite city in Latin America, Panama City. Um, but yeah, that's where we came from.
Hmm. But he did the residency, but you didn't.
So he got there earlier before the cutoff, and I was too late.
The
But
friendly
it
nation.
didn't matter anyway because I mean I'm much happier with this Paraguay residency anyway.
Okay, so your brother, who I've met, he's like pretty on it then, because most people don't have multiple.
No, man. So to be honest with you, if it wasn't for my brother, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. My brother has always been like pretty switched on when it comes to all of this, and so he originally got the Panama one, and then he just brought it up like, man, like we need to get this residency. Obviously, Australia was going crazy at the time, so we just wanted a second home, a second base. I got locked in there, so it's just nice to have like another residency. And we made that call, as I said before. We thought that we're just going to come here for a little bit and get it sorted, but we actually turned out staying here, which is good.
Nice. You guys are like the Australian Tate brothers almost.
Almost, almost.
Tell Jake to lay off the whey protein.
I will, mate. Yeah, well, that's the other thing. He loves the food here as well. We basically eat steak every day, so he's happy with that.
Okay. And I guess you kind of got locked into Australia, but I would love to see how much I could tease out of you of just like your philosophy on, I guess, like the direction Australia is going and why it was really necessary to even leave to begin with.
Well, I think the West as a whole, man, is just it just doesn't make sense to stay there anymore. I would say Australia is probably one of the better places to be in terms of, especially from my city. Like I'm from Perth, right? We have some of the best beaches in the world, really good weather. It's super safe. So it's honestly an actual good, like on paper, it's actually a good place to stay. But in terms of the West, like it's just no longer worth it anymore. If you make money online, the prices are stupidly insane. Your taxes, you're getting robbed with taxes. You're around, just normal people that think with an average mind. So basically, once you leave and you add up all these things together, it's a lot cheaper in these countries. You obviously live a better life. You're around like-minded dudes. You save more money, so you can invest more money. You get ahead quicker. Like you just add up all these things, it just becomes a no-brainer, man, to leave. And it's quite funny because the amount of fear in the people's minds, it's basically stopping them from making this move. It even happened to me. Like I was a bit scared, in all honesty, making that first move to Mexico. But once you come here, you end up realizing why they don't want you to leave. Because once you go,
Mm.
you won't come back for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dive into that. What do you mean they don't want you to leave?
Well, I mean, they want you to pay taxes, right? They want you to be a good civilian and work the jobs and build the country and pay the taxes. But if you leave and you move your residence elsewhere, well, obviously you're not a profitable customer for them anymore, right? So putting the fear in the mind and making it harder for you to leave is probably what they're going to edge towards, in my opinion.
So you think there's like a conscious campaign to make the rest of the world seem scary to keep people kind of boxed in?
I think there's a slight, I mean, we could go deep, really deep with this,
We
probably
got
be
time. We're
take up.
only
I
18
mean, it'll
minutes
probably take
in.
up too much time, right? But yeah, I don't think it's an accident. You know what I mean? It's definitely not an accident that's where it leads. I mean, you put on the news for 5 seconds, and it's just negative bullshit about other countries, and this person got robbed, this person died, um, you know, all sorts of crap. So I don't know. That's kind of how I think about it. I just remember I was like 22 years old, and before I left, man, not one person had something good to say. It was like, be careful, watch out for this, be safe, like all this fucking fear mongering shit. And trying to like look out for me because they thought they knew these countries. The funny thing is none of them had ever been to these countries, yet they had so much to say about how it was and how I need to be careful and all this. And obviously, as a young kid during COVID, coming along on an empty plane almost, I was thinking, shit, like, am I making the right decision here? I was, a little bit scared, but it's funny. You rock up, you stay for a week, and you realize most of it's bullshit. Obviously, you need to be careful, but yeah, a lot of it is just fear mongering.
Yeah, could we click into that fear? You said you were kind of maybe fearful or nervous of leaving Australia, diving into the unknown, going to South America. Tell me about that.
Well, I think when you're from the first world, right? Like, especially in a city like mine, I'm from Perth, Australia. So it's very chill, it's very safe, everything's clean. It's all first world, everything's modern. And so, jumping into the third world can be a little bit daunting at first. Obviously, there's more things you've got to be switched on about, but it's just um, it's basically just what's the word like? Um, I don't know how to explain it, man. But what the way that people think it is and the way they make it out to be is nowhere near what it's actually like when you come here. You know what I mean?
Perception versus reality.
Pretty much. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, man? You think the same with Canada?
I think I'm already talking too much in this podcast. I just got to let you cook.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at with it, man. I think for those that are watching that think that it's a little scary or whatnot, or they're a little bit fearful, I would throw that mindset in the bin and come check it out for yourself, and you'll see.
And I'm sure you have, tons of buddies or mates back in Australia, and you're trying to convince them to make the move. And they're probably also considering this a very daunting decision. Either they're trying to figure out how to make money online, which is kind of thing number one, or, burning the boats and jumping in off savings and trying to make something happen. Or so, what do you tell to the buddies?
Well, it's funny you say that because my best mate from Australia just arrived here last week. Basically, he saved 10K US, and I said, dude, you come here with your 10K. You'll be able to live in Asuncion for 6 months. It's going to give you 6 months to buy yourself time to find a remote job and work on Amazon KDP, which is the business I'm in. He's already making like a few $100s a month from that. So he's building that on the side as well. So I said, dude, if you can't find a remote job in 6 months, something's wrong. Like, of course, you're going to find a remote job in that time. So, funny enough, 1 week into his stay, he's ended up finding a remote job in sales. So, he's made the move. He's always wanted to come out. Obviously, I told him, what it's like and whatnot. So he's here, and I actually have another friend who's going to come meet us in Buenos Aires as well. He makes money from Amazon KDP, which I taught him, helped him with that, and I think he'll probably get a remote job, after a few months here as well.
Hmm. So people are getting remote jobs probably quicker than they anticipated.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're pretty lucky if you're from the West, you speak English. I think, these days, especially after COVID, there's a lot more opportunities to make money online and work from home. A lot of boys are doing remote sales, which is a pretty good opportunity. So, there's that as well.
Hmm. And I guess one of the big things is maybe they're considering just going to Asia because it's closer and probably cheaper flights versus like the trip to Buenos Aires or Asuncion is obviously it's going to be expensive, right? It's probably going to be at least 2,000 Australian dollars and like a 30-hour mission
Yeah.
plus, right? So how do you convince them come to South America instead of Asia?
Well, I think the women's a big one. If they're single, they're definitely going to come to Latin over Asia. I talk about both quite a lot, like on my YouTube. Asia's a great place. It's definitely an option. It's obviously better for us Australians because it's a lot closer. But I just think there's way more growth that comes from Latin America. You've got to learn the language. Obviously, Asia's a lot safer, so that's good for that. But I just think there's a lot more growth in Latin. I also think there's higher level like-minded dudes out here. Especially in Paraguay, especially like you've got people that are here because they've got half a brain, know that they need a plan B, a second residency, and whatnot. Don't trust what's currently going on. And then you've got the other type of guy who's got a successful business and wants to move his taxes. Either of those two guys are people that I want to be around. So I think there's more backpackers and kind of like crazy tourist activity in Asia, whereas here
Right.
I think it's more like serious dudes. I prefer to be around that. What else? I think the food. I mean, people argue this. The food's better in Latin America, in my opinion, especially in the South when you've got the steaks in Argentina and Paraguay. The steak quality here is just insane. Mexican food is ridiculously good, one of my favorites. So there's a few reasons. I think there's way more options in Latin America compared to Asia as well, in terms of what I would want to see.
See, I got to dive into something controversial. One of my Australian buddies who was with me in Mexico for a while, he wasn't having it when I was trying to tell him that the steak is better in Paraguay than in Australia. he's like, mate, Australia steak is so good. What? Give us your word on that.
Honestly, I think Australian steak is up there from what I've heard, you know, and like I don't mind it as well. But in all honesty, Argentina and Paraguay make way better steak than Australia. Not only that, it's like a fifth of the price. So that's just another reason as well. I think the way they cook it is better here
Yeah.
as well.
Why do they cook it better? Do you think it's just like a different technique or experience, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it just tastes better that way. I mean, I don't really know. I don't know the answer exactly. It's
Uh-huh.
just, it's just better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think. Well, the thing is, like in Australia, you're just not going to have it that often because it's so expensive, right?
I mean, dude, yes, last night, me and my mates got tomahawk from La Cabrera, which is like, I don't know, 35 US or something, the whole bill. If we were to get that in Australia, like that quality of steak at a fancy restaurant in the city, just like what we did last night, bro, we're easily talking 150, 200 USD, if not more, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy. You can, what you can do here for the price is just like another no-brainer to leave. It's just not worth it, you know, doing these, like going out for dinner and doing these activities back home. Like when I went back home for like 4 or 5 months after being away for 2 years, I just felt like I was getting robbed, man. It's like, what is this? These bills are insane for what it's worth, you know?
Yeah, and it's hard not to become that guy that's like, "What? So expensive?" And all your buddies are like, "Fuck this guy." He just keeps like complaining about the cost of shit.
Yeah, yeah. I try not to be like that guy,
Yeah.
man, but they just don't understand yet because they obviously haven't seen what's on the other side.
Okay, so the pros of South America versus Asia for an Australian are going to be learn Spanish, um, less distractions from the holiday crowd, less Australians,
Yeah,
hotter girls, less lady boys,
yeah. Less hippies.
less hippies, better steak.
Better steak, yeah. Um, Asia to me, bro, is a holiday spot. You know, that like Asia is amazing for 2 weeks, a few weeks, and then I'll get out of there. Personally, for me, I don't like staying there long term. Um, I much prefer it over here. It sucks that it's far away from, you know, Oz, but you know, this time zone's probably better as well. Probably works better for me in terms of how I run my business. That, you know, um, so there's that as well.
Okay, cool. And I got to ask the devil's advocate question. It's like, why not just make more money? Stay in Australia, make so much money that, bills don't matter.
Well, that's the plan, man. My plan is to make more money, so then, you know, wherever I want to be, I'll stay. So it's a good question, but the truth is like you staying in your hometown, you staying in the West, in these countries that cost a lot of money to live, you're just making it harder for yourself and slower for yourself to get ahead. You know, when I'm in Paraguay and I'm maximum spending nowhere near, but around 1,500, let's say 1,500 USD per month, and I'm saving all that money. Well, obviously, there's a bigger gap in terms of what I'm investing, so I get ahead quicker. So I'm still, you know, in the beginning phases of getting to that point where I can fly business class, I can go to Dubai, you know, these types of things. Um, you know, and I'm getting there. But in all honesty, man, I'm even if I'm rich, I would like to stay here. I would like to be in Latin America. So we'll see what happens. But that's kind of my question, my answer to that question.
Is that the answer is essentially that, especially in the early years when it's really important to maybe save up an emergency fund and build a little bit of savings so that you can invest in things, invest in yourself. That's why it's good to be in a lower cost of living place to have that flexibility and to
Yeah,
grow the savings
yeah.
faster.
You're just gonna make it a lot easier for you to get ahead. You're gonna be around better people. You're gonna be away from the shit. The energy there, man, is horrible. People's minds is always just thinking of the negative or what could go wrong. Whereas the people you're around here, it's like, yeah, man, good idea. Like, go for it. Go do that. Like it's much more positive. It's just better energy to be around. And yeah, eventually, if you're around that energy and you're around these people that are like-minded, you're saving all this money, you've got all this time because you can outsource, your washing or whatever it is. You add up all these things, it just becomes a snowball effect, man, and you're on your way.
I gotta clip that and just be like, outsource your washing.
Well, obviously, it's like a little thing, right? But you get my point. You're not doing dumb shit that's taking up a bunch of your time. Like
Yeah.
driving to work, bro. Like my mate who had a job who just come here, he lived like 40 minutes from his job, was waking up at stupid o'clock. He had an 8 hour day. But once you added everything together, preparing his lunch, commuting to work, stuck in traffic, it's almost like 11 hour, 12 hour day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're not actually spending 8 hours working. You're spending like 11, 12 hours working. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And only getting paid for 8.
Yeah, and then you're spending money on fuel. Sometimes I was spending, when I had a job back in Australia, I was spending money on like parking, which was like taking up just a stupid amount of my bill. So yeah, I think it's just a no-brainer to leave, honestly.
And when you say kind of higher level guys or the type of people that you want to be around are into, having a plan B and internationalizing, what's kind of different in terms of maybe the mindset or the activities between, say, an Australian entrepreneur that's maybe doing pretty well and he owns, I don't know, like gas stations or like whatever they own over there, and maybe like an internet entrepreneur in South America?
I think the Australian guy just has way too much trust in the government, which I believe is a negative mindset to have. But I mean, all in all, man, I'm happy to be around both. It's just the fact that the guys over here, they, I don't know, I'd probably say they value life a little bit more. They want to have a bit more fun. They don't want to play it safe. They don't want to take the secure path. You know what I mean? Like they're a bit more open minded to new experiences and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Just more of like it's like a getting it type of thing. It's like,
Yeah, man, I would say so. But both, I'm cool with. I don't mind either way.
yeah, makes sense. And the community's been growing in Asuncion. It seems like every year I go back, um, a lot of people stay. Also, a lot of new cast of characters. A lot of people coming through and stuff, and it's definitely growing. When I used to go there like 5 years ago, the looks I was getting, bro, like were insane.
Mm,
But I think it's getting pretty
yeah,
getting pretty normal now.
for sure, man. A year and a half ago, I felt like I was the only gringo here. But now, definitely seeing a lot more of them, which is good. I think our Twitter posts have brought in a few people. But yeah, so it's good to grow the community. The more, the better. As I said, they're all like-minded. They're all very much on the same path. Me and Alessandro are going to host an event on the 7th of November, hosting like a networking kind of meetup at Gitano. So that'll be good. That'll be interesting.
Oh, is that he wanted to sort of redo Gringo Tuesdays in
Kind of, man.
Asuncion?
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind
Just
of the idea.
basically give an opportunity for people to come out and meet each other and network. I think there's a little bit of that going on, but not enough, not much.
Hmm.
I know you have your group where people meet up with each other and whatnot. But yeah, I think it would be cool to have a day where every Thursday night or whatever, whoever wants to go and meet at that bar can go ahead and do that and make connections here.
And this is going to be the first one.
Yeah, 7th of November is going to be the first event.
Honestly, this will probably come out after that. But I'm just curious because when I was there when was I there? Like August, and he was talking about it then. So it's taken a
Well,
couple months to execute.
the manager of the bar that we wanted to organize it made us wait like 5 weeks, man, or so. to book
Hmm.
it. So yeah, that's the main reason why. But it's getting sorted. We'll see how the first one goes, and depending on that, we'll make it a regular thing, I think.
Okay, cool. And how's the weather? It's starting to creep up, eh? Getting a little hotter?
Yeah, it's getting a lot better. It was super like polluted from that fire that happened, but now it's all cleared up, blue skies, not a cloud in the sky at the moment, and yeah, it's starting to get hotter now. Low to mid 30s, which is
What's it
good.
coming in at Asuncion
What was
weather?
it? It's 30 today.
32? Okay, 32 is
Wicked day today,
doable.
man.
36 on Tuesday. That'll be 37 on Wednesday. It's pretty hot.
Yeah, some people find it a little bit too hot. Personally, for me, it's perfect. Obviously, I'm from Australia, so it's not really too bad. But I know in January it gets to like low 40s and shit, which might be tough for the Europeans.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So, how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by BitRefill. BitRefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Holtze, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. So what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non-technical roles. So no, it's not just for the nerds. So if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with Job Stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of Job Stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible. You said, 4 to 6 months in Paraguay per year. Have you sort of determined what the ideal months to do in Paraguay are?
I actually don't mind. That's one thing I love about Paraguay. I don't mind when I'm here. For the most part, the weather's good to me. I think winter literally lasts a couple of weeks. Honestly, it gets a little bit cold, but it's not too bad. Um, I have January and December, January, and February here is probably the best. I know it can get quite hot, but just there's a lot going on. The vibes at night are really good. There's probably more
Really?
events. Yeah, man.
That's when I tell
People,
people to leave, but you're down with it.
I don't care about the weather, man. Like some people just like don't want to deal with that. So it just depends on
I
what you
think part of it
prefer.
is like because there's so much stress on the electric grid that it's more the blackouts are more frequent in the January, February, which kind of messes things up for the working online.
Yeah, a little bit, but I didn't really have any problems, man. That many, honestly.
Hmm.
You've got San Bernardino, which I know from January to February is pretty good. I think they there's events and
Pop in, yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, a little getaway there. Um, but yeah, as I said before, it's one good thing about Asuncion, Paraguay. I don't think it really matters when you come. And so that's perfect. If your base is a place where that isn't restricted by what month you go, even better, right? It just gives you more flexibility to be able to kind of just put that where you want throughout the year, and gives you more flexibility with the other countries that you want to go to.
Yeah, yeah. You just got to be the type of guy that likes air conditioning.
Yeah. I mean, some guys on Twitter are saying they don't leave the house. They wouldn't want to leave the house for 9 months of the year. And I'm just thinking, what are you talking about, mate? Like, it's not that hot. It's fine. But yeah, depends.
Yeah, I remember. I forget, it was like January, February, and I like went outside midday to go get a haircut. I almost didn't make it, bro.
Well, in Perth, man, 40s isn't rare. So
Really?
yeah.
Okay. No, no, I'm good. I try to be all terrain too.
All right.
Cool. I was going to ask, kind of lost it. What else do you think would be some good topics or common misconceptions about Paraguay? I remember my topic now, but let's start with like misconceptions.
Misconceptions. Well, because it's in Latin America, people probably think it's unsafe. It's one of the safest cities I've ever been. I'd say that's one. Obviously, it is unsafe outside of this zone, but in terms of this spot where you're going to be, I have not had one issue ever, which is good. I don't know if this is a misconception or not, but the people are the nicest I've ever met in terms of every country I've been to. Just very welcoming, very good people, honest people. My uncle was here and didn't realize, but he lost his bank cards, right? And like an hour later, police came to him and gave him his bank cards back. Like,
Wow.
I don't know, just like little things like that. They'll go out of their way. I got a big shop done at Deli Market, the supermarket, for an asado. This Uber driver, man, got out of his car, brought the bags in the boot for us, and helped us take them inside to our apartment. Like, just little things like that. It's just, crazy to me.
Yeah. What was your uncle doing in
He's
town?
here. He's here for the residency, man. He's got crypto, so he wants to move out here as well.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Guys, by the way, quick plug, My Latin Life. We help people get Paraguay residency. So yeah, hit us up. Link in the description, Paraguay residency. My other kind of theme I wanted to touch upon was, I feel like this happens in every Latin American country and certainly Paraguay, where, maybe the first 6 months or a year, you're kind of in that gringo bubble and you don't learn, like you do learn about the country, but there's so many layers to the local culture. Do you find that now that you've been there, multiple visits, I guess over a year combined, right?
Oh, more.
Um,
2.5 now, man.
2.5 years combined in Paraguay. Wow.
No. Sorry. In Latin. Yeah.
In LATAM.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're kind of getting past that surface level understanding of Paraguay culture and you're kind of like uh, understanding it at a bit of a deeper level and you're kind of learning more about that?
A little bit, man. Not so much. I think obviously I'm learning more Spanish now, which helps, so I can have more conversations about it. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I'll know. There's a lot of guys that come to Latin America not putting in enough effort with learning the language. Your experience here is going to be so much better if you learn the language. Not only that, in Paraguay specifically, almost no one speaks English here. So you're going to make your life very hard. You're going to make your experience shitter if you don't make an effort to learn the language, because you're just not going to be able to communicate, you know?
Hmm. Or or learn German or Portuguese
Or Guarani, huh?
or Guarani. Yeah. Who's the president of Paraguay?
Malay, no? No. That's the Argentinian one, my bad. I don't know, bro. I actually don't know. I forgot his name.
Pena, Santiago Pena.
That's right. He looks young, man. He looks like a nice guy as well.
Yeah, he's pretty smart. Speaks good English. He knows what he needs to say to keep the creditors off his back.
Bro,
The
to be
IMF.
honest, I do not, I mean, as you can tell from my answer, I don't keep up with the political types of stuff. Even in Australia, I don't know anything. I don't care. It's not really something that I follow too much. I know it's slightly important when it comes to certain things, but overall, I stay out of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick little random story. I'm gonna butcher this, but there's a Paraguayan folk tale of basically like a dwarf or an elf that like creeps around at night in the farmland.
Hmm.
And the word's escaping me. It's not bombasso. What the hell is that thing called? Paraguayan dwarf. Let's see if Google will tell me. It's showing an actual porcupine animal. Paraguay elf. Goddamn. I'm sure I could find it if I kept looking. But there's all these like folk tales, right? From like the
Hmm.
Paraguayan countryside, the Campo, the Chaco, all that. And one of my first visits to Paraguay, I think back in 2020, I went on a date with the girl, and she ended up telling me the folk tale of the Paraguayan elf. It's called
Hmm.
like Bombasso, Pambasso, something like that. I just forget right now. And we go to this bar, and there's this Paraguayan dude that's like super drunk at the bar, and we're ordering cocktails, and it's pretty empty, the bar. And so we're like sitting at the bar because they're making like fancy drinks, lighting things on fire and stuff. And the drunk dude, he's like, and then one of the drinks on the menu was the name of the Paraguayan elf thing. It was
Hmm.
like, the Pambasso drink or whatever. And the guy's like super drunk, and he's like, "Do you know what that is?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know the elf. Yeah, what do you mean?" He's like, "You don't know the story." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, yeah, dude, I know the story." He's like, "If you know the story, I'll buy a whole round of Pambazos for everybody." I'm like, "Okay, yeah." So the story is like the elf in the countryside, and he creeps around to the farm at night and the full moon, like whatever it is. And I like told the story perfectly. He's like,
Yeah.
"How did you know that? How did you know
Fuck. Was this in Spanish?
that?"
Dude, was this in Spanish
Yeah,
or English? Oh my God, bro. There's no way it would have been undone.
I'm. It might have been English, honestly. It might have been like bilingual. I can't forget. My English wasn't as good back then, or my Spanish.
Yeah,
But yeah, you never know when it's gonna come in handy.
sure, man. Well, yeah, you need it a lot here. Jesus. My mate's struggling, bro. My mate's been learning Spanish for a year and he's been doing well, but his teacher's from Colombia. He's gotten here to Paraguay and he's really struggling with the accent. He can't do it for some reason. But I told him it takes like a month or so to get used to, right?
It takes time. I think it's not that hard of an accent,
Yeah,
honestly.
neither. I didn't think
If
it
I,
was too bad either, to be honest. It's different.
Mhm. I would even argue it might be easier to learn Paraguayan Spanish than Argentine Spanish.
Yeah, yeah. I learned from Argentinian chick, so I think that helped me because there's a little bit of similarities from Paraguay and Argentina. Um, but yeah, I'd say it's definitely harder Argentinian.
Yeah, they're similar. I mean, they have a lot of common. Like, probably people haven't been. They probably don't realize that they use a lot of the same slang. Like they'll say boludo and boliche, which is a nightclub, and so there is a lot of like cultural exchange between Paraguay and
Yeah,
Asuncion.
yeah.
Like, did you know that Buenos Aires was founded by Paraguay by people from Asuncion?
No,
No.
the hell,
Well,
no,
I'll
I
tell you
didn't
this
know
because you're
that.
going there.
Go ahead.
So there was two foundings of Buenos Aires. I won't get
Okay.
the years exactly right, but like 1520s, 1530s.
Hmm.
And they founded it a first time, Buenos Aires, at the mouth of the river there.
Yeah,
And I think they basically got they got kicked out by the Indians, by the Native Americans, right? And so they had to go somewhere else. And then a next expedition went on to go up the river, and then they founded Asuncion in the 1520s, 1530s, thereabouts.
Yeah.
And then Asuncion became to solidify as a city, so much so that they called it Ciudad de las Madres, or Madre, no, sorry, Madre de las Ciudades, which
Mm-hmm.
is like the mother of the cities, because
Mm-hmm.
from Asuncion, they went on to found all these other cities in the interior of South America, like a lot of the interior cities of Bolivia and Argentina and things like that. They were founded from Asuncion as the base where the expeditions left from. And then one of the expeditions is they went back to Buenos Aires for the second founding of Buenos Aires,
Mm-hmm.
and that expedition left from Asuncion to do that.
Wow. I didn't know that, man. That's interesting. Fuck. I know that there was a war, right? A pretty bad one between Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, right?
Yeah, the Triple Alliance. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that
it's a
one.
very important one to know about, to have like a understanding, certainly of South America and the Mercosur region.
Yeah.
Um, Probably a long story. I do know quite a bit about it, but essentially, long story short, in terms of the impact, it was Paraguay versus the combined
Mm.
alliance of Uruguay, Brazil, and Argentina, and it decimated the country of Paraguay. I mean, they
Yeah.
put up a really really good fight using guerrilla warfare tactics, and the war went on way longer than they thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
um, it was like 2 years, 2.5 years of like head to head combat, and then like a
Fucking hell.
year of like, where it was like basically lost, but it was like guerrilla warfare for like a
Yeah.
year. And it was hard for them to even get the ammunitions and stuff like that because all the rivers were blocked and so forth. And then it kind of ended when they killed the president, Lopez, and then when they killed him, they like chased him down, and you can visit the site. It's like in the north of Paraguay. Anyway, and then so it killed like 80% of
The
the
men.
men in Paraguay. Yeah, so 80% of the men died, and then so they really say that Paraguay was a country sort of founded or grown by women, because
Mm-hmm.
they actually had to practice like government enforced or incentivized polygamy, where one man would actually go out and impregnate like 5+ women because they had to repopulate the country.
Yeah.
But women obviously had to play a really significant role because there basically were no men after 1865. Obviously, the country had been around for 300 plus years in different forms. It was part of the Spanish Empire and so forth. Um, but after the War of Triple Alliance, which I believe ended in 1865, there was no men in the country, and so women kind of built up the country. And people kind of say that that's why Paraguayan women kind of culturally treat the men so well today, is because there's been just so many generations of women really like treating men well over the past 150 years.
Yeah. No, it's super interesting, man. I know that they say that the ratio is still quite high in terms of, how many women there are compared to men, which is kind of crazy, honestly.
Yeah, I think part of that today is because a lot of the men like left to go work in construction
Mm-hmm.
in
Okay.
Argentina.
Okay.
So I think
Okay.
that might be part of it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the ratio is skewed towards women for sure.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Overall, the women here are really nice, man. Pretty good. They're good looking, very feminine. So, you know, shouldn't have any problems as a gringo, most guys.
Hmm. Yeah, I recommend people kind of read about the history, especially if you're a Paraguay resident. You're going to have to know it if you're going to get citizenship one day, because you're going to have to do a civic test and
Yeah.
stuff. But also, it really, when you learn about the history of Paraguay, because it's on the boundaries of all the different countries, you really learn about how kind of South America came to be, because it is very new, and relatively speaking, right? Like they used to call it the inland China, because the economy was so locked down. It was like a centrally planned economy.
Mm-hmm.
And yerba mate, they had a monopoly in the yerba mate trade. And yerba mate exports paid for the entire government. They had government surpluses. So they had no external debt to any other country. They were entirely self sufficient. There was no taxes because the government was able to completely fund itself by selling yerba mate, exporting yerba mate.
What the fuck, man?
And there were rules that you couldn't even like leave Paraguay without permission type of thing. Like it was very centrally planned. And maybe you know the name Humboldt. Was it August Humboldt, something like that? Humboldt and Bonpland, which were two French botanists and geographers that sort of did the whole geography of the Americas. They went to Mexico, they went to Peru, like everywhere, and they documented all the plants and everything, and all the geography across the Americas, and they wrote books about it and they sold them in Europe. This is in like the early 1800s, and that's why the name Humboldt is like everywhere in the Americas. I guess you didn't grow up here, but like
Yeah.
tons of like high schools and stuff are named Humboldt and
Okay.
everything. And so Humboldt's partner, which was Bonpland, he ended up like getting he went to Paraguay to like document the plants and stuff like that, and he got imprisoned because there were like no foreigners in Paraguay at the time because it was the inland China, and so he got imprisoned. But it was like, what do you call it? Like not like in jail, but you get to like kind of be outside and chill. And he ended up there for like 10 years. He got like a local spouse and just like chilled and grew yerba mate, and that was kind of like the end of Bon
What the
Plant, something
fuck,
like
man?
that. And so like Humboldt went back to Europe and kind of became super famous, and then Bonpland just like chilled in Paraguay with his like mestiza wife or whatever, and
Yeah.
they eventually like freed him, but he like just continued hanging out in Argentina, something like that. But yeah, so people say that that's like low key one of the reasons that led to the Triple Alliance War was it was actually a bankers' war because Brazil was backed by England, right? Because
Okay.
Brazil was a what's the word? A monarchy at the time, and
Mhm.
they were really and Brazil and Argentina were like completely financed by the Rothschilds and all this type of stuff who controlled the coffee trade and external trade, and they wanted to basically put Paraguay into debt so that they would fall under the like international debt based system because they had no external debt, right?
Right.
So that's like one of
Interesting,
those
man.
causes they actually don't really tell you about, but you guys can go do your own research.
Yeah, I had no idea, mate.
Yeah, I feel like we went off course here a little bit, but
Yeah, it's fine, bro. We can jump back into whatever else you want to finish on. We didn't go in.
no,
We
yes.
didn't go into Amazon KDP or anything. If you want to jump into that,
Do you want to? Yeah, kind of a random, but I could always learn more about it.
well, it's up to you, man.
Um, Hard fork, but I'm down to learn about it. I'm actually going to be talking to Dave later today about it. As a side note, um, what should we tell the people about Amazon KDP?
Well, I mean, that's how I make most of my money these days. So I quit my job at 19 and was able to make money through that, and I've been doing it ever since. So for those that don't know about Amazon KDP, basically it's just putting up non-fiction books on Amazon.com in any type of keyword that has demand. You know, beginners guides, self-development books, kids activity books, coloring books, whatever it is. Um, you know, ranking that book on Amazon and basically owning digital real estate on their website and you know making money. So super passive business, which is what I like about it. Um, Gives me heaps of time freedom because you know once you do the work in the beginning, it's kind of set it and forget it. Besides running a bit of ads.
Hmm. And you really like this business model. I know you were kind of like burnt out on it a bit, but like you're gonna stick with it. Did you get through the burnout period?
Yeah, so there's been a couple times, man, where I've bounced into other things, but I've always came back to Amazon KDP just because it's so easy, man. It's what I know, and you know now I have most of it automated, so I don't do too much work inside of it. I have an assistant that I trained with AI now. Obviously, helps a lot. So I'm just kind of doing about 20% of the work inside my business that I currently run, which is kids books, and then on the side, I'm building my personal brand and kind of just getting the ball rolling with that.
Hmm. I have a random question for you on this. So there was a period about 2 years ago where it got really popular for private equity funds to essentially buy up FBA stores and I guess KDP as well,
Hmm.
and roll these up in a way where private equity funds would buy a whole bunch of these things for whatever 200K a pop, 500K a pop, and then build it into a larger thing, and then create synergies and have like maybe like a manager in place. And so that was a popular thing for private equity to do like 2 years ago.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of those investments ended up not working out too well in terms of the FBA KDP rollups. Do you know anything about that?
No, man, I don't know much about that, but if I was to buy a KDP business or an FBA business, I would want to know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, if I was just like some guy that just bought it and didn't have anything, like any idea of how it works and what to do and whatnot, I think that's a bad idea. You've got to know what's going on. You've got to understand, how you got to be able to do it yourself first. In my opinion, I think it's a bad idea to run that.
Hmm.
Just buying it and then kind of letting it go.
For
Because
sure.
competition's coming up all the time. You probably want to update your books every couple to 3 years. Like you need to know how to run ads, because that changes every year. Things like this.
And then, so what's kind of stopping you from just going out and buying other KDP businesses? Like, it, you could obviously do it from scratch, but couldn't you go out and just review the numbers of a KDP business, make sure it's not going to fall off a cliff, and they got something good going on? And a lot of these businesses are for sale. Like, what's holding you back from maybe buying a bunch of them?
It's an option. It's something that I could definitely do. One thing I'm thinking about doing though is the fact that I have this kids business fully automated. I'm potentially going to step outside of this brand and start documenting my journey and being completely like transparent with the brand that I'm going in, and showing everything that I do inside this new brand that I build. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about doing next.
Okay, yeah, definitely two different approaches.
Well, I
Like,
mean, it's an option later down the line. Right now, I want to focus on this idea that I'm currently thinking of, just because I think it'll be good for my brand and showing people exactly how it works. Because, dude, the thing with Amazon KDP is there's a process of obviously how things work and how to do things, but everyone's too scared to tell you what the keywords are that you should be publishing in, and what their products are, because they don't want anyone to copy, right? And so there's a bit of hidden stuff there, and on how these people go about the business and how they do their research and pick the best cover and all these types of things. So that's kind of my next plan of like fully documenting that and showing how exactly it works and how exactly I look at things.
mhm. And I guess one thing people would be afraid, or me, I'd be afraid of, is like the single channel risk of Amazon. But I understand when you write a book, you also, what's the word, like license it to Ingram and some of these other book distributors.
Yeah.
If KDP was to completely change, because Amazon has, kind of screwed people over, quote unquote, a lot of times, right? Where maybe they lowered the commissions for affiliates from websites and stuff like that. Like if you're an affiliate to a computer or t-shirt or whatever, and they like slash those commissions, and then all those websites got their valuations and profitability got destroyed because they were so reliant on Amazon associate links, and then they were making way less money with that. What if KDP did something similar, and they gave you maybe less of a profit split, or maybe there's just too many new books coming in, and so books were selling less. So like, if how do you kind of address some of those risks?
I don't think it's too bad, honestly. I mean, in the 7 years that I've been in this, there's been one change in terms of like printing costs. And it was very, very small. So I don't really worry about that or think about that much. And if it happens, it happens. I still think the business will be worth it. Obviously, if it happens to you, it happens to everyone else as well. It's the same as if the business gets harder or it gets harder to get reviews or whatever the thing may be. If it's harder for you, it's harder for everyone else. So I don't really think about those things too much. It could be though, like a valid point where they just make the royalties too low. It's not worth it, but I doubt it. You know.
Cool. And sorry, the video connection's kind of getting a little buggy here if the conversation's starting to sound clunky. And so you have a YouTube channel where you've been really consistent documenting not only the KDP stuff but also life in Paraguay and a little bit everything, right?
Yeah, man. So I kind of just did a little challenge where I did 100 videos in 100 days, threw a bunch of shit at the wall. Obviously, a lot of Amazon KDP, but also
Mm-hmm.
a bit about traveling, mindset, learning Spanish, just little things on the side that are involved in my life. Kind of seeing where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to take the channel. Have a little bit more of an idea now of where I'm going to take it, and yeah, just recently had a little break, but I'm back on it now as well.
Yeah, it's funny, Brock, because it's one thing to move from Australia to Paraguay, and then it's another thing to also put yourself out there and be open about it. But if you didn't, we wouldn't have met otherwise. Would you say you've profited or gained valuable connections from your decision to put yourself out there on YouTube and on Twitter?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing about putting yourself out there and building a personal brand, mainly for the connections and the networking. People like if you, for example, like just building your Twitter, it would be a great option because when you do want to meet up with a guy that you find is like-minded or whatnot, and you have content on your Twitter, like all he needs to do is scroll over it for a couple seconds, and instantly he knows exactly what you're about. And it just makes your life easier if you want to connect with someone, or better yet, you just have people asking you, and it just puts you in a lot better position, especially when you're traveling solo in these countries like in Latin America. It can be hard to meet guys that you actually want to hang out with.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So do your DMs go crazy every time you get like a semi-viral Paraguay tweet?
I wouldn't say they go crazy. It's still kind of beginning phases for me, but I've definitely had a fair few people reach out to meet up and whatnot, which is a slight reason as to why we've organized these events as well. That way, we have those days and we can all meet up there.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. Where can people find you, or what kind of final message do you want to share with the audience?
So you can find me on Twitter and YouTube just through my name, or Brockway Online on Twitter. You'll find everything you need there. Obviously, posting quite a lot on Twitter and then YouTube as well. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up, whether it's Amazon KDP or just traveling LATAM in general. Happy to help and get back. But apart from that, that's pretty much it, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally made this happen.
For sure, man. Took our time, but it's done.
We did it. Cool. So this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, Brock Way. Link in the description where you can find him on Twitter and all that good stuff. And for the audience, wherever you're listening to this, maybe it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, please be sure to subscribe, even leave a review if you could. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Brock, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.